Hello, everybody. I'm Pastor Steve Green. Today is Wednesday, April 1st, and this is our first refresh of Sunday's message. This morning, where we live, the temperature was minus 18 Celsius, which is 0 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's a very nice Alberta, Canada spring morning, very refreshing. And hopefully, our message, our brief refresh today, will also be refreshing. One of the main scriptures from our message on Sunday was 1 Peter chapter 1 and verse 6, and it reads like this: "In this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while, if need be, you have been grieved by various trials." The Greek word translated grieved is lupeo, meaning to grieve or to sorrow or to be distressed or to suffer loss. The Greek word translated trials is perasmos, which means to which means a trial, a temptation, or an adversity. So there's going to be some measure of grief, sorrow, loss, and distress in this life. This is due to trials, various trials, as Peter says. So this is a good thing to get settled in our mind. Otherwise, the devil will play on it. We might ask, in the face of trials, does God even exist? Does he care for me? Why do other people not seem to have to deal with the same troubles I do? Why me? The fact is that all of us, whether it looks like it externally or not, all of us do suffer from various trials that we encounter in this life. We live, Paul called it, this present evil world. So, going over to James for a moment, chapter 1 and verse 2, that was another scripture from our message on Sunday. Verse 2, "My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials." So James doesn't say if we do, he says when we do. Let's continue looking in James in chapter 1 and verse 13. He says, "Let no one say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God." Now, the Greek word that we translate tempted here is simply the verb form of the word translated trials in First Peter. And so, and also earlier in James chapter 1 and verse 2. And so to be tempted or to be tried is the very same thing. To go through a trial is a temptation. So here James is saying, when anyone is tempted, do not say, "I am tempted by God." In other words, trials, these various trials that we encounter, do not come from God. Now, one more scripture along this line in Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 6, "But without faith it is impossible to please him. For he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him." So we have trials. They do not come from God, but they do test our faith in God. Faith is not just an option in God's world. It's a requirement. It's a necessity. We must respond to adversities with our faith. So here's what we know. There will be trials. We're going to be grieved to some extent by these trials. We must respond to these trials in faith, using our faith, and God is not causing or orchestrating these trials, but he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. So there are results that will come when we use faith in God to deal with the trials that come to us. Number one, faith minimizes the impact of the grief. Paul says in a different place that we're not to sorrow as those, or we're not to grieve as those who have no hope. Faith will speed the recovery. And here's one of the main, if not the main point that we're making today, is that as we deal with the adversity, we will come out better than when we started. The result of dealing with adversities by faith is that we grow, we develop, we mature, or in the language of the Bible, we become perfect. We come to a better life. We love life and see good days. So rejoicing is a necessary expression of faith. Peter refers to it in verse 6, verse 8. James refers to it. Count it all joy when you fall into various trials. So an expression, a necessary expression of faith is rejoicing. What does rejoicing look like? Singing, one way. Praying in tongues is a way to rejoice. Laughing, dancing, praising, thanking, lifting our voices, putting a smile on our face. It's something we do intentionally. We do it on purpose. I should say this, during our message on Sunday, in giving the testimony about our son Cale being diagnosed with a chronic disease of the bowel. I was talking about rejoicing. We were rejoicing in the face of that, not because of it, but in the face of it. After 9 days, he walked out of the hospital completely healed. The doctors could not explain why. Should have said that in the message on Sunday. We'll see you next time.